Morning vlog. So we've taken this road to work before, or we've taken this road before. I'm on my way to work, but we haven't taken it in the dark and sunrise. So there should be a good, by the time we get there, should be a nice little view over one of the little knolls. I did a video yesterday. It should be uploading shortly before you see this one. But I mentioned a lot towards the end of it that I was asked to do my experiences on the training and my defensive tactics and kind of how I ride. And due to my accident experiences, I guess I'll say. I'll start with the accident itself. The accident, I was in the middle of an advanced I call it an advanced training course. The name of the company is called Advanced Safety Course LLC. It's taught by a great guy. I don't want to say his name in case he's a little sensitive to that, but he's on YouTube. He posts a lot of videos up about twisty rides and stuff. And he's a great rider, great friend. I'd be hard pressed to find any better people out there. He and his wife, they're fantastic people. But and just so blessed to meet them, to know them, and be able to call them friends and ride with them. But he gave the course. It was just he and I, and there was a lot of classroom time, a couple hours worth of classroom, and to really get into your head a little bit and to get you thinking about how you're motorcycling and thinking about what you're actually doing while you're operating the machine. And then we went out on what we call the range. But this particular instance, the range was all the the twisty roads around where we live, and then crossing over state lines up into the mountains to the state just north of us. So we took off riding, and the day went pretty well for the most part. And then we got up to a mountainous section, and most of it was mountainous section, but we got to be later in the day, and he kind of was like, "Hey, I'll give you a choice. What do you want to do? Do you want to go this way, or do you want to go this way?" He said, "If we go this way, the roads are about the same, and it'll be a little bit longer, but it's not, this iconic road." I said, "Okay, well, let's go this other way then." So I chose to go the longer route because I wanted to be on the bike a little bit longer. And so we had stopped, and we, there was a lookout. We used the restroom, for what restroom we had, and got it. Oh, I think it just hit a bat or a bird. We hit we stopped there at that overlook, and then we stopped there for about 5 minutes to grab a quick bite of jerky, quick drink of water, just keep everything fresh, and then we set off again. And I want to say that we hadn't been riding very long, maybe 5 minutes, if that. We were on our way down the mountain, and we dipped into a come on, dude, just close. We dipped into a left-handed corner, and this left-handed corner, it was very deceiving, and I didn't know, what it was then, and I had made some errors in my riding that led up to this point. I probably had a bad line. I had bad body position. I don't want to say I had terrible entry speed, because my entry speed didn't differ much from his, and he made it through it. But, his line could have been different. I'm sure that his body position was different. I'm sure his mindset was different. He's used to riding these long days. And like I said, it was about 3 in the afternoon. We've been riding most of the day, and technical riding. It wasn't a road like this. It wasn't a road that you get on straight, you barely lean the bike, you just kind of mosey on back and forth. A lot of these roads are very technical and fun roads. Great experience and everything that I was doing, and all the while, he's in my ear coaching me through our scenes. Hey, do this, do that, try this, do that. You're doing this right, try this, and so there's so much mental fatigue that was going into it that I wasn't taking into account how that mental fatigue was influencing my physical fatigue. And my knee had been bothering me all day. Oddly enough, it has stopped since the accident, but I also haven't ridden a complete day like that yet. But we dipped into this turn, and I ground the peg. My peg started grinding much sooner than it ever had before in a turn. And I've touched my pegs down, so the feeling wasn't really alarming. I've done it before. So, I wasn't panicking when it went down. What made me panic was the time that it went down. Because it was, like I said, it was much sooner it ever had been before. So when I went down the turn, it started grinding. I would like to think that I processed all of these thoughts, bang, bang, bam, 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 one by one. And what I hope that I had thought and focused on was, okay, this is bad, but I've got to get through the turn, because I didn't stand the bike up. So what I did was I just stuck in the turn. It was grinding all the way through the turn, and I looked up to try to find where my exit was, and it was not a sharp turn at all, but it just very deceiving. It was a slight decreasing radius, and it was also off-cambered just a bit, just enough to make things interesting. So I looked through the turn to find my exit, or the exit that I had provided myself by these poor decisions that I had already made. And I knew that to make that exit, I had to lean the bike more, which, obviously thinking, if you got to lean the bike more and I've already used up the bike's lean angle. There's nothing left in the tank for this thing to move. Now, that peg will have to bend backwards eventually, or something else is going to give. I found that something else was going to give. When it was grinding, it went through, and I said, I've got to give more input on the bar. So I gave more input on the bar, and then just enough of that input, and it increased the lean angle just that much more of the bike that the rear. I think, I'm not saying that I'm right, I'm not, I think that it took enough weight off of the rear tire with the peg grinding that the tire just walked around. It took enough weight off, the bike almost just pivoted, and it slid out from underneath of me. The front did not wash out. I know it wasn't. I know I didn't hit the brake. I know I didn't do anything like that. So when the rear tire went, I went down on my left hip and started sliding. I had full leathers on. I had a complete leather onesie on, and I had short cuff gloves. So the only road rash that I ended up getting was right there between my wrist and where the leather ended, the sleeve of my leather suit ended. The leather was scuffed up a little bit. I had boots on. I had, obviously I had my helmet on. My helmet didn't get any scratches except on it got some dirt in the chin vent, and then it got some scratches on the visor. And they were very, very light scratches. So my head stayed up whenever I rolled over onto my stomach. I went down on my hip, rolled on my stomach, slid a little ways. I remember seeing sparks. So I did see some sparks come up from underneath my stomach, which I'm going to assume was the bike that kind of ahead of me going through the accident. But when I slid, like I said, rolled over on my stomach, and then I ended up finding a small little retaining wall that was off the side of the road. And by small retaining wall, I mean this thing, it was a 1 in a million shot. My left ankle went into it first, I think, and I think it glanced off to the side, or it made it glance off to the side, and then my butt followed right into it. And that's what really stopped me, was that wall. And had the wall not been there, I would have just slid down into the ditch and then, against the mountain, which I would hope that by that time I would have slowed down enough to where the damage that I actually went through wouldn't have been so severe. But, we can say, coulda, woulda, shoulda. So hit the wall, hit the wall with my ankle, hit the little wall with my butt, and then when that impact kind of popped me up, and then I landed on my back, I looked up and saw the wall, and then kind of rolled over off into the ditch, and was trying to catch my breath because the wind just got knocked out of me. So injuries from the accident: my ankle was shattered, my back was I had a broken ankle. It was a broken leg. It was a break, dislocate, and then I had 2 compression fractures in my back. My L1 and L2 had 10% compression fractures each. So I was in the hospital for 2 days, a day and a half. I went home Monday, and that was on July 1st, 2017 is when I had the accident. I was off the bike for 10 weeks. I was off my leg for 6 weeks, off the bike for 10 weeks, and I was back riding again in September, in pain, mind you. But so all that to say this, I absolutely, the mistakes, the reason I wrecked was me. It wasn't because of the bike. It wasn't because of, the road. It wasn't because of conditions. It was because I made poor decisions without consciously knowing it that contributed to that accident. And since then, it has really evolved my riding into a more focused technical riding, I guess, to where everything that I do, I'm trying to pay attention to every movement, every single movement, every single thing that I do. I want it to be with a purpose, because when we operate these machines, we have a responsibility. How does this all translate into my riding and defensiveness and this and that? I think vision is one of the biggest things. I mean, every skill that you have on motorcycling is just, it's crucial, and everything that comes together and forms the conglomerate of how to ride a motorcycle successfully, it goes into it. Vision, line, which I don't have very good lines, and throttle control, brake control, just every kind of control that you can imagine on the motorcycle that would influence what you're trying to do with it. See, this line, I entered that corner, I was already inside. I should have been a little bit further on the outside. And that's not saying go to yellow to white. I don't do that on the street. I don't like doing that on the street. I want to keep my line a little bit closer on the sides, because I don't know that little patch of gravel that's just off to the right that you don't see, or that, that yellow line that might have a little bit of moisture on it in the morning. I don't want to find that. I don't want to experience it. I learned enough from my accident that I know I don't want to do it again. So I want to do everything I can not to pile a bike up in a ditch line somewhere, especially if it doesn't mean hitting a wall again. So get training. The biggest thing that I can support and just completely advocate with everything in me is training. I know that it's expensive. Trust me, I completely understand that. And I would not have been able to have taken these classes from my friend had he not been so gracious. And it honestly, that's the only reason I've been able to is like I said, he's an amazing guy. So very gracious person to let me and my wife be a part of it and to learn from his experiences and his training. He's gone through Lee Park's Total Control. He's been through California Superbike School. So he knows what he's talking about. He's been riding for a long time. So get training. Absolutely get training. Get good gear. Get good training. The MSF course is a fantastic place to start if you haven't taken it. And even doing refresher courses with MSF is great too. My wife and I, we've talked about doing these as well, and maybe go through the ARC again, even though it's fairly basic. But we forget a lot of those basics. You forget a lot of slow speed maneuvering, and you forget that there are different skills that are associated with going, less than 5 or 10 miles an hour, and then also going with, 40 to 50 miles. They're just different. It's a different skill set. You have to develop both. You don't want to be the fastest guy out on the road or the smoothest guy on the road, and then all of a sudden you turn into a parking lot and you go park your bike because you want to catch a burger and you can't even stop, so you just drop the thing over and it's done for. You don't want to be that guy. But as far as defensive tactics that I use when I ride, I cover my brake lever a lot. So, and that was something that I was taught by my friend too, and it was maybe I've taken it to a little bit of extreme, but I think he, says it's at least covered, so if anything has to happen, I can stand on the brake, I can do what I need to, I can emergency brake with fairly, and then it's ready. I don't have to reach up and grab it. So that reaction time, I've cut a little bit of time out of that so I can decrease my stopping distance, and get maybe stop in a more successful spot. Since riding, or since the accident, I've also stopped riding aggressively on the street. You know, I used to use the term ride hard to my wife whenever I told her, you know, I want to go head over to a place called Paris Mountain on Altamont Road. I would tell her I want to go, you know, I want to go for a good hard ride, you know, and you know, be super, not stupid, but just not focus on the things that I need to focus on, and which is being smooth, being consistent, picking the line, picking the vision. And to quote my friend's class, being fast should never be a goal. Being smooth should be the goal. And I'm trying to always remember that and always kind of keep putting that in my head, that to focus on those types of things. As far as defensive tactics go, when riding, I think, you know, it's give yourself room. You know, don't get right up on people's butts when you're going at speed. You know, watch people, watch front. I pick out a lot of front tires. Whenever I see someone sitting at an intersection or getting ready to pull out into the road, like the vehicle we just passed, I'll look at their front tires. If their front tires are not completely stopped, I'm definitely going to start squeezing that brake. If they're, you know, at the very minimum, the brake's covered and ready to go. So this has been my experiences from the wreck, and what I, you know, kind of what I want to do going forward with riding, and how I approach riding mentally and physically, and trying to make each skill, refine each skill that I can. And one piece of advice that my buddy that gave us the class, one thing that he said was, every time you go out and ride, pick something. Pick something that you're either not good at or you just need to focus on, and work on it. You know, pick one thing. You know, trail braking. Pick trail braking. Trail brake a little bit more. Practice it while you're riding. Throttle control. You know, be focused on being smooth with that throttle. Body position. You know, focus on your body position. Stuff like that. So there's always something to be working on whenever you go out and ride. And that was one of the things he gave us for this class. He said, you know, pick something, and that's your homework, you know, and then we'll come to the class and see how you've done and see how you feel about where your progress is. So always focus on something, and always be ready to continually learn, and never let yourself become stagnant whenever you're a rider, because it could save your life. But those are my thoughts and opinions, and hopefully this was on par with what was asked for in the forum. So hopefully you guys got a little bit out of this. And it's a little bit different of a morning too. You know, we get to see the sunrise a little. So let me know. I'll be making more videos coming up, trying to get some more cranked out. The last 2 weeks have been a little rough, so definitely. Thanks again. Have a good one.